You are watching AYV Television.
Good morning.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rotel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Get all your breaking, factual, and balanced local and international news from AYV Direct to your mobile phone via SMS. To subscribe on AfriCell, send star to 298 and stay connected for only 300 leones per day.
Morning.
Right, good morning. Good morning to you, Samuel.
Good morning. How are you, Antonia?
Oh, I'm doing well as usual. How are you doing out there?
Super happy this morning.
Oh, well, I don't know. Am I different from yesterday morning? Anyway, I think I'm always cheerful in the morning, especially to, wake people up. That's our job this morning, isn't it, Samuel?
Indeed.
Right, thank you for tuning in. It's a beautiful morning here in Freetown City. The sun is shining.
Indeed.
And we're happy to be here this morning. From anywhere you're watching us, good morning to you. We're happy to keep you engaged for the next 2 hours.
Right.
So be like Samuel, don't be like me. Grab a cup of tea or coffee or whatever kind of warm beverage you prefer in the morning to wake you up, and stay with us for the next 2 hours, right?
Right. All right. As always, before we go into our conversations, let's start off with a summary of top stories from our primetime news.
Health Ministry disburses checks of 15 million leones to households occupying the government property at Lumley.
We're trying to construct 2 major hospitals in the Lumley area. One is a general hospital that's about 100 beds, and a pediatric center of excellence that's about 150 beds. So combined, they will have about 250 beds in the Lumley community. We have government land that's out there. And over the years, some people have occupied some of the government land. And so we have spent the past couple of months now negotiating, thanks to Honorable Tawa Conte and his team and the ministry team. We've spoken to every household member what we thought fit was to look at a humanitarian package for each of these families that will allow them to move on as we follow on with the construction. So 30 families were identified in the community, and for each of those families we have a package of about 15 million leones, and this is based on calculations of what it will cost to pay a monthly rent for a year.
I know what it means for ambulance to take people across to PCMH. Most of the time they die on the way. So I'm not selfish that I'm being evacuated, but for the development of this nation and the well-being of generations to come, I'm happy about it. I appreciate whatever little government gave to me.
I don't receive the check, but really I'm not happy. I'm not happy really. I don't used to the place. From now, the money for 1 year they give me. But when you move, for go another community, for start life, you know, easy.
They belong with me to tell me, see, they can broke this place at any time. So that everybody find place. But with this point saying, we're not getting active for now, this is not any season. So but thank God they listen to me, they will give me this.
I feel proud and glad because the development for every Sierra Leonean. As we all know, freedom is difficult to forget. And not easy to forget place. Even if you get the money in your hand, but let you get place, and not easy.
Residents of Tabakula Wharf at Aberdeen complain of lack of basic amenities.
For now,
then we get platform them back.
Now no get toilets because they no get wash. We want room, we want them find toilet and find room where be safe. The fisherman go carry them to block the find store where be say they go keep them machine. We no problem. No go happen. Put room now. So one make store, one make for me the community unite. For me we able get where to we the get for keep for the day. But if we can also not get toilet, not get bathroom, people in the come far away for can buy fish also. But they restrain out them for wet, out them for do everything, but they're not able. So we beg, we need for help. We need for help and we need help because the big one and they come, the one wet, they know they get nothing. Look, big people they don't.
You have not get toilets. Number two, we have restrain. We have not get cold room. And we will not get cold room, so the fish we know they done. But we come and we go ice them. We don't get safe for fish.
Those were some of the top stories in the news in the show this morning. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development sets up a committee to investigate reasons for the deep-rooted feud in the Freetown City Council. We shall be talking to the Minister for Local Government.
Right, and also the world today commemorates Literacy Day. Data in Sierra Leone says the country has about 65% of the population illiterate. We will be looking at the relevance of this day to the country, whose highest members of its population are illiterate. So stay tuned for all of that and more in today's edition.
Right, and the 2018 presidential candidate of the Alliance Democratic Party, Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari, has been granted bail after spending 14 months in incarceration following his trial for sexual offences of a minor. We shall be talking to the judiciary and Kamarimba's lead defense counsel, Emmanuel Safa Abdullah, in the show.
Right, now to our quote for today, which says, to completely abolish discrimination, we must never undermine people's emotions when facing adversity. We should always approach each other with a human face and a pinch of compassion. A mixture of love, understanding, respect, and fairness. That quote comes from Abdul Blah, a Sierra Leonean humanitarian based in the United Kingdom. Well, with that, we'll take a quick break with a short message from our sponsor, Rotel Commercial Bank, and we'll be back shortly.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rotel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television. Don't forget to send your comments and questions on the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page.
Right, now the Freetown City Council is on disconcerted waters following allegations and counter-allegations of corruption ranging from recruitment to abuse of office to marginalization to insubordination and to usurpation of powers between the mayor and the chief administrator. This has led to the setting up of an 8-man committee by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to probe and come out with findings. This morning we have with us in the studio Tamba Lamina, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, and Alhaji Marcos Bangura, Executive Director, Citizens Forum for Democratic Accountability. Good morning and welcome to the conversation, Mr. Minister.
Good morning.
Marcos, good morning.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
All right, let's start off, Mr. Minister. What's brought about specifically with the issues happening in the Freetown City Council between the mayor and the chief administrator that led to the setting up of that committee to probe into those happenings? Specifically, what are the issues?
Well, I think we, as a ministry, we receive triggers from Freetown City Council. Of course, the Ministry of Local Government has got the mandate and the statutory responsibility to oversee local councils, but also to promote good governance. And there are 22 councils nationwide, and Freetown City Council is one of them. Over the past 6 months, we have been receiving complaints from. Initially, there was a letter from the mayor complaining about insubordination, but also from the CA, and obviously from social media and various other media. We've all, as Sierra Leoneans, observed that the situation as Freetown City Council is not sitting pretty. And as a responsible ministry, we decided that there is a need for us to actually look deep to see exactly what are the critical issues that are impacting on relationships, service delivery, issues relating to recruitment, financial management and procurement, because these were the issues that were raised even by the councillors, because letters came from councillors indicating that they don't want the CA. At no time in the history of the nation has a council actually decided that they don't want the chief executive of the council, who is the CA. So as a ministry, we think it was very responsible on our part, not to just leave it like that, but to actually dig the root cause analysis of what is actually happening in the Freetown City Council, so that recommendations can be preferred that the ministry will consider for implementation.
Okay, first off, before going to the committee, There has always been this allegation that there's this stalemate between your ministry, for example, and the city council, that the mayor has come out. We've seen letters from both your ministry and the mayor's office on issues of recruitment as well, even the CA, for example. And so the mayor has always put out an argument, and many political pundits they've also put out an argument that the Ministry of Local Government is not supportive of the drive of the Freetown City Council, and that is linked to the political coloration of the two institutions. The political pundits feel the Ministry of Local Government is green in color, the Freetown City Council is red in color. So there has always been that stalemate as a result of that. Would you please clarify?
Well, that's quite interesting. The Ministry of Local Government has got no color. That's a farce. Very clearly, as a minister, you're a minister for everyone in Sierra Leone. So for anyone to actually say that the ministry is political, we don't think that is the case. And more so, the political head of the ministry is not the only person in the ministry. You've got the technical head, architecture of the ministry, consisting of the permanent secretary of the ministry, who is the principal advisor to the minister. And this has been all along. Clearly, these allegations are just allegations. We have been very supportive to Freetown City Council right through in terms of the resources that government has actually poured into Freetown City Council, whether be it for flood mitigation and the cleaning of Freetown, and also remitting funds into Freetown, disbursing funds. Nobody starved Freetown City Council of that. Clearly, there were issues around recruitment, which was dealt with amicably at that point in time. And obviously, all the councils, and we are not only dealing with Freetown City Council, we are dealing with 21 other councils nationwide. So I would need to underscore the point that Freetown City Council, as far as we're concerned, we've been very supportive right through. We've had very good relationship with the mayor coming to my office to discuss issues. We must understand as well that there are other wings of the ministry as well. We've got a local government service commission, which looks after recruitment issues and human resource issues as well. They've been dealing with human resource issues, and they have had relationships with Freetown City Council. And clearly, if matters are not resolved amicably, and we still see here allegations of various sorts, and it's a trigger that we believe is actually undermining service delivery in Freetown City Council, functional relationships in Freetown City Council. It is only but our responsibility as a ministry, devoid of whatever allegations people would actually make. We have to stand the upper ground to actually make sure that we understand the deeper issues in Freetown City Council that are causing all the tensions.
Just out of curiosity, when you say you've always been supporting the Freetown City Council as a ministry, and besides you do not just deal with the Freetown City Council, going back when we never had the opportunity to actually ask you questions around that, going back to the issue of the property rates that was developed by the Freetown City Council, there was this struggle as to who has the mandate or power to actually implement and do things like that, when there was always reference to the acts that it has to be in consultation with the Ministry of Local Government and, well, you, the minister. That's brought about some serious problems between your ministry and the Freetown City Council, because we saw letters from both ends trying to ascertain who has a mandate to implement that, or when and how to implement that. And from that moment, we saw a situation where things started escalating, problems.
Well, it's interesting that you view it in that, from that angle. As a minister, I oversee 22 councils and 190 chiefdoms nationwide.
Right.
And clearly the responsibility in terms of property tax or increase in any rates has to be the ministry actually consulting the Ministry of Finance. And let's set this in context. This was a period when COVID had just started. And obviously Freetown City Council in turn completed property rate assessments and brought out property rates that were served to Freetonians, wherein Freetonians were complaining of escalating very high departure from what it used to be, without the adequate information to Freetonians about what was actually happening. So in terms of the consultation and the involvement of Freetonians, that was not done, or adequately actually done. I was traveling along the way, and I received several messages on my phone. And it is from there that I actually said, no, but this is not the way it needs to go. We have to make sure that this is not what should happen. So we had to put a stop to that. And following that, and where you see in organizational management, you have to have structures, and you have to have processes and procedures. And you need to follow those processes and procedures in dealing with matters of critical concern to Sierra Leoneans, especially wherein livelihoods are impacted on. As a minister, I think it was very responsible to say, hold on a bit, it's not that we need to review this to see exactly where it is, and then we set up a committee to look at developing the guidelines for property rates, which was adequately done, and following that. But we did not just put a hold on that. Government sponsored Freetown City Council during that period. We poured in money to support Freetown City Council because we know they were in collective rates at that time in order to support that. So clearly, how can anyone say that we're not supporting Freetown City Council when it's about processes and procedures? We can't have individuals stepping over processes and procedures. As a ministry, where our mandate is largely administrative and good governance. And when we talk about good governance, it is for us to ensure that those processes and procedures are actually followed.
So on the issue of the property rates, if I heard you correctly, it was after the work had been done by the Freetown City Council that the local government ministry interfered and said you need to set up a committee to also create guidelines through which these property rates can be reviewed and implemented.
No, the Act actually spells it out that in order for you to increase rates, the Ministry of Local Government should actually be involved in it, and we should be consulting with the Ministry of Finance, because there's financial burden on individuals as well. That needs to be considered. And we were living in a climate wherein COVID had just started, and clearly nobody knew exactly where we were going, and we have this high rates coming out from Freetown City Council.
So what was the committee set up to do?
Well, it was to set up the guidelines with regards to the property rates as to how you set property rates nationwide. It wasn't only for Freetown City Council, but for all councils nationwide.
So this is what I asked you before. It seems that was only done after the mayor had concluded her own work of perhaps consulting, as you have put it, maybe inadequately, but she had already done the work, put out the new property rates, and then you went on to set up the committee.
Well, if we were aware that she was doing that, we would have advised adequately.
So you were not consulted?
Not at all.
All right. So now to the issue of mandates, and you talk about the structures and guiding principles when, say, local councils want to implement certain regulations or certain, new regulations. The facts that are being put out now make it seem as if the local government ministry is interfering with the work of, in this case in particular, the Freetown City Council. Now, what does your mandate say with regards, say, if we're talking about property rates now, what does it say regarding that?
Well, we set the guidelines, and that's exactly what we've done. If you actually want to talk about interference, we wouldn't see it as interference. We actually see it as supervision and monitoring of what councils do, which sits very much within our purview to actually decide and to monitor all councils in terms of whether they're actually meeting their mandate. So it wasn't outside our remit of what we should actually do in that particular instance. It is all about consultation and making sure that the ministry is very much aware of what is going on. These are sub-national entities.
So are there, take for instance the issue of recruitment, which has been the brunt of the issue for the past couple of weeks, regarding the local councils and the Freetown local councils, the Freetown City Council included. what is the mandate of the local government ministry when it comes to recruitment under these local councils? Is it that the local government ministry is meant to recommend the staff which are to be interviewed and go on to be recruited later on if they so fit the role which is being advertised? What is the mandate of the local government ministry?
Well, when it comes to recruitment, that sits within the mandate of the Local Government Service Commission. Clearly, local councils are supposed to recruit, but obviously in consultation, there is a committee that needs to be, which includes the PSC, which is Public Service Commission, HRMO, and various other entities on that committee when it comes to recruitment of actually core staff. When it comes to transfers, the Local Government Service Commission actually works within that, and they have got the responsibility of transferring staff from one council to the other. When it comes to it, there has never been in the history of this nation wherein obviously people have actually adhered to clear outlines of whatever is in the recruitment process. There's a recruitment guideline, and this was the most transparent recruitment that took place at that time. However, we do take it back. Obviously, there were issues relating to how it was done, and we consulted with all the councils. We brought all the councils together for us to have a clear direction as to where we moving forward. And that's a thing of the past. Everybody actually accepted that, yes, we have to move on, and things have to, because for the good of the nation, we have to move forward. And lessons have been learned from that, from the councils and also from local government. One thing is very clear. We are into 18 years of local governance. And the stretch in terms of where we've moved, there's been a lot that has been achieved. But there are some fundamentals that still remain in terms of what needs to be achieved. Namely, councils paying their own staff. They pay their own, the junior staff. But these core staff are paid by central government. The councils haven't come to the point wherein obviously they could pay these staff. They are directly paid for by central government. So in that instance, obviously, pushing on decentralization and deepening decentralization, as His Excellency the President has committed to, it is about partnership. It is not about being territorial, and it is not about being political. It is about development, local development in these areas. And when it comes to that, we have supported Freetown City Council right through, and there is a clear mark of what this government has actually done regarding Freetown City Council.
All right, let me just quickly ask you this question before moving over to Marcos. There was a time when the Freetown City Council staff I think they went for about 2-3 months without salaries, and that was attributed to the delay in subsidy or payment to the local council, their budgetary allocation. And that hampered the work of the Freetown City Council, because those staff were looking forward to their salaries, and they went for, I think, 3 or 4 months without being paid. And that was seen again as a political game, that the mayor should not, be in charge. And even the CA that you mentioned, he was transferred to the council, and that did not sit well with some of the staff, including the mayor, who feels that the CA is undermining or sabotaging her efforts to rebuild and transform Freetown, which is definitely her mandate according to her.
I'm not aware of what in terms of staff not being paid. These were staff recruited by Freetown City Council.
Right.
Obviously, they should be paying them. And clearly, no report came to me with regards to whether people were paid or not. So I'm not very much aware of whether people were not paid for 4 months. Because obviously, if you are working directly in conjunction with the ministry, these are issues that obviously we should be aware of in terms of what is happening, so that government can support. At no time have we actually starved Freetown City Council of any resources whatsoever. So it's news to us.
So timely disbursement has been made?
Well, disbursements everywhere is not timely.
Right.
It's not timely. Even for central government, it's not timely. Because obviously we know during this period of COVID, that there are financial constraints. And obviously, it is not, we don't want to home in on a particular, and then you make it political.
Right.
Because clearly you should understand the issues and the critical nature of the issues and where they are emanating from. Rather than just saying, oh, you're just homing in or holding into Freetown City Council to say because this mayor is of this color, that's the reason why. This is impacting on everywhere. His Excellency the President talks about it all the time. Obviously the economy that we inherited is a struggling economy. And clearly we're trying to make amends. But obviously there will be constraints as you move along. But I have to say, all disbursements to Freetown City Council in 2019, in 2020 were made for the whole financial year.
Right.
So clearly, there's no point wherein anybody is actually being starved of resources. The delays, yes, but in terms of resources going into all the councils, of course, at no time have councils been receiving the amount of disbursement that they're having right now compared to what it used to be. Clearly, we're seeing councils operating, and why is it that we only have 1 or 2 councils that will be having all these issues? That's the question we need to ask. Clearly, after elections, we need to take our political lenses off and focus on development. Otherwise, this nation will be at a stagnation. Clearly, for me as a minister, we believe that we've been supporting Freetown City Council. I will continue supporting Freetown City Council. And even the committee that has been formed at this particular point is to support Freetown City Council because we need to understand the issues so that we develop the strategy as to how things could work out in Freetown. And let me note this. This is not the first time we are conducting inquiries. We've done it for Western Rural District Council. In Western Rural District Council, the trigger was staff barricading the gate to say people would not come to work because of salaries and various sort. The ministry went in there, we put in a committee, they went in, investigated, profiled measures. Those measures are, and it's quiet in Western Rural District. All over the country, we've just completed inquiries for 5 chiefdoms, which are conflict chiefdoms, to try and understand exactly what are the issues. In administration, you don't paper along the cracks. What you do is to deepen and understand the issues so that you can profile recommendations and go along.
All right, stay with us. Let's bring in Marcus. Marcus, I'm sure you've been following the issues there in Freetown City Council, the fight between the mayor and the chief administrator. The chief administrator put out a whole thesis responding to the claims of the mayor. The chief administrator accuses the mayor of setting up a parallel unit. That, according to him, clearly sidelined his office, the mayor's delivery unit, and every project is being handled by the mayor's delivery units. Projects that should be handled by the unit of the chief administrator in the council. Now, with all the things you've observed, where do you put insubordination or marginalization in all of this?
Thank you very much. We've been following the issue at Freetown City Council, especially with the Consortium for Good Governance, Human Rights and Democracy, where I served as the national coordinator. And we have written letters to even the minister here. We've made open letter in respect of that. There was a time, in fact, we had a meeting with the minister. I don't know whether you can recall. But it was not exclusively for City Council. It was about some employees that were suspended. So we had a meeting with him in respect of that. Even that was also linked to political gymnastics. So in respect of the happenings at the Freetown City Council, as I mentioned, that under the Consortium for Good Governance, Human Rights and Democracy that we've been following, we have come to realize that there is the issue of distrust, suspicion and distrust. That's the major factor. And
being fueled by what?
What?
Being fueled by what? The suspicion and
suspicion
lack of
for both sides. For both sides.
So what is fueling that suspicion?
Well, it is because of the fact that there is the issue of disrespect as well. Because when you talk about governance, or good governance generally, there are structures, there are processes.
Right.
And we should endeavor to respect the processes and structures if at all we want to achieve a common objective. What I believe is the fact that both sides should work towards achieving an objective, and that objective is the development of Freetown. We should take into consideration of the fact that Freetown is a metropolis. It is comprised of different shades of opinion, different people, politically or whatever. So as a result of that, both sides should work on that perspective. But at the Freetown City Council, as I mentioned, there are structures, there is the act that's made the provisions that, for example, let us first establish the fact that there are two heads in the Freetown City Council, just like any other council. That is the political head and the administrative head. Of course, the political head is the mayor. The administrative head is the CA. I think it's section 32 that gave powers to the CA. That is to say that
the head of administration.
The head of administration, he has his functions to perform in terms of management, in terms of raising resources and all that. And equally, there is the mayor. And the mayor has her own objectives, her own dreams, which he wants to realize. For example, the Transform Freetown project, right? And under this project, just as you mentioned, the CA felt relegated in it, right? To him, he is saying that there is a parallel unit where the mayor is concentrating and turning blind eyes to them. So as a result of that, it deepens the animosity, the distrust among them. Then at the same time, the mayor is also talking about insubordination, right? In the sense that, like, the CA is not actually projecting that respect that should be given. And any society or community organization wherein there is a discord, there is no agreement, where they are not thinking alike, there is a proclivity for crisis to occur. And when it occurs, it will not only be limited to them, it will affect the municipality itself. So as a result of that, that is a major factor that has contributed to the city council being a standstill, right? We look at the local government minister coming in, or let me say the local government ministry coming in. Say, for example, they have been trying to ensure that they establish a kind of a committee, right, to investigate and come out with a result. But what is important to note here is the combination of the committee itself that was established, right? Because we are talking about good governance here, we are talking about development here. So as a result of that, we need to take into consideration the fact that for fair play, for each side to feel that they have not been ostracized, there is a need for a committee to be established that will have a balance.
Would I be safe to ask you this question? That perhaps the suspicion that you're talking about was fueled or is being fueled by the fact that the mayor created our own unit, which perhaps she believes in can better deliver her promises to the people of Freetonians, as against working with the chief administrator to achieve that, or she feels the chief administrator would not be able to help her achieve her promises. So do we still go back to campaign promises, fulfillment, and who the mayor feels can support our desire or our dreams for Freetown?
And that is where the problem is, even the framers of the acts. You know, because when you have two heads, although there are two heads in other ministries, so for example, let's take a ministry, for example. You have a political head, you have an administrative head.
Right.
But here, most times the administrative head is being influenced by the minister, because it is the minister whose government is in power. So a minister can even say, I'm dissatisfied with a particular permanent secretary, and that permanent secretary can be transferred. It cannot be dismissed. But this does not occur in the council, especially when we have two different political, let me say, political thoughts. That is to say, some people are saying that, okay, the mayor is APC and is being elected based on that ground, and that the mayor is being appointed, if not appointed, the CA is working with the government. So as a result of that, there is always that kind of a problem. And that is why in other areas, it's very difficult, you understand, to see problem arising. But here, it's very, very difficult, just like campaign promises. The mayor herself, right, has promised the people of Sierra Leone and the people of Freetown, understand?
Yeah.
And on that grounds, she was voted for. And it is her prerogative to work assiduously to achieve that particular dream. So as a result of that, she decided to form another unit. But when you look at it generally again, forming that unit without coordinating with the CA properly, right, suspicion and distrust, you know, will arise.
If we're looking, the mayor was here and she made it very clear that her delivery unit is, let's say, basically because of the projects being implemented by donor partners, by DFID, by UNDP, whichever organization she's working for. And this is similar in ministries as well, where you have an implementing partner with their own delivery units. They would probably have a head. And this is a similar strategy that is being used at the FCC. So the question here is, are there not clear-cut functions for the mayor and for the chief administrator?
There are clear-cut functions. The Act itself provided functions that each of the two sides should perform. As I mentioned, that by the Act itself, when it comes to administration, is the administrative head. You understand? The CA is the administrative head. So although even at the ministry, there are administrative heads, but just like you put it, most times they work hand in glove. But in this situation, I doubt whether the two sides are working. And because the two sides are not working, that is where the stumbling block is. And they are, both of them are doing a disservice to the nation. I am talking as a civil society activist, and I want to be objective in what I say, especially when my new organization covers accountability issues.
Right.
You understand? And in fact, the issue of accountability is also the responsibility of the CA by the Act, you understand? To actually check on issues, right? The CA has the responsibility to make sure that there is accountability. The CA has the responsibility to question certain things on the side of the mayor, understand? And if the mayor herself felt dissatisfied over certain issues, you understand, of the CA, say for example, where she thought that the CA is being influenced from another angle, or that the CA is undermining her activities, and because, and again, if he works with the CA, there is the possibility that she will not realize her dreams. That will be a problem. But all that watered down to the issue of them not having one mind and one heart for this country, you understand? Because if they have, they should work. They should take into consideration the fact that this is not their personal property, you understand? They are working for the people of this country. So if they are working for the people of this country, they should endeavor to make sure that they reach a particular point of agreement. And where they are not talking to each other at certain times is a problem, you understand? So as a result of that, they should come together. And what I expect from the ministry is to find ways and means to glue them together, right? But here again, it's like the mayor herself is not satisfied with the activities of the ministry. You ask the minister a question with regards to property tax, you understand? Even on that situation, of course, I am mindful of the fact that at the start of the corona, things were very difficult, just as the government used to say that they inherited a battered economy, understand? But it was far gone from that particular period because resources have been raised in many areas. We have even got support from the international community. But that notwithstanding, at that particular time, it is the issue itself affected the city council than any other department, and which is not fair to the city council itself.
But even the central government, Marcos, gave tax breaks, even with some taxation on some goods being imported, which means there was a need to actually cushion the effects of COVID. And many Sierra Leonean Freetonians were complaining. Even us here, we received letters, calls, messages asking us to advocate on their behalf. That was when the ministry came in. But the process or approach the ministry took was a concern. But we'll come to...
Yeah, but let me just mention this.
A few seconds, quickly.
Yes. When it comes to generation of resources, the government, the central government, contributes some amount, subvention giving, but it is not 100%.
Right.
And the council itself is also charged with the responsibility of raising its own funds.
Right. Stay with us. It's
quarter to the hour now.
Right.
It's quarter to the hour 9. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back shortly with Wake Up Sierra Leone. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rotel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Get all your breaking, factual, and balanced local and international news from AYV Direct to your mobile phone via SMS. To subscribe on AfriCell, send star to 298 and stay connected for only 300 leones per day.
All right, welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone here on AYV Television. We're discussing, problems within the local government space. That's the local councils, including the Freetown City Council and other councils as well across the country. We do have with us in the studio here the local government minister, Tamba Lamina, and we also have Marcos Bangura, a civil society activist. I think it's time we heard from you out there watching and sending your messages to our Facebook page. So we'll take some comments there from the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page.
As always, we have to apologize before taking the messages. We have hundreds of them, but time will never permit us to go through all of them. CC Alpha is saying there should have been a private investigating team set other than the local government setting up one. The ministry sent the chief administrator to the FCC. Why didn't the ministry advertise that position other than imposing cease on councils? It's about time that AYV, this is very interesting, and I'm reading this. Thank you very much. This is, so serious. It is about time that AYV should give serious warning to contributors who make this paraging remarks and or attack public figures because of their tribe and gender. This is what a responsible institution does. And we've been saying this, we've been telling people, we do not want to close the space, for participation in our programs, but please just be responsible. We do not create a platform for you to abuse or attack people based on political, tribal, or gender lines. Please just be responsible, otherwise we'll be left with no option than to just get rid of you on our platforms. Please, we do not want to do that. Disappointing answers when the central government refuses to cede decision-making power to local government. Citizens suffer the consequences of bad services. Even Trowbridge sensing that one. AYV, I don't know why. Interesting. Frederick Dumas, we had the mayor here the last time. The minister was not here. So that is why. African leaders have failed us horribly because their education is only to divide us and make us it ourselves. That has no connection to what we're saying. The minister just said they poured money into the process and now he's saying they were not consulted. Sitaba is saying, and 3 more messages because of time. everything we do in this country is political. How do we want this country to move forward? It's high time we try as much as we can as a country to put our nation first and party politics last. Ambassador Mike Joseph Kanu. John Dimo is saying, is there a good relationship between the minister and that of the mayor for good work of the council? From John Dimo in Kenema, the final message is saying, if the minister is saying he is not aware of the delay in payment of salaries in the FCC, it is a clear picture to show that the chief administrator is not doing his job. The same goes for the Western Area Rural District Council. Those are the messages time will permit us to go through. We apologize again for not taking all of your messages.
All right. So we take it from that note, and
right.
you know, you can respond to some of the.
Yeah. Let me first respond to the CA at the Freetown City Council. The CA was at the Freetown City Council before this government came into power. Clearly so, to say that the CA is being influenced by, I find that really ridiculous, because clearly, professionally, you have to have a professional behavior and conduct towards all local councils. And I asked this question earlier, why is it just Freetown City Council? When we have Tonkolili District Council, where obviously Tonkolili, Bombali, which are obviously from the opposition, we are not having issues of that nature. It is about processes and procedures, and I try to reserve some comments because there is a current inquiry going on. I don't want to prejudice anything to that effect. But what I need to underscore is that my ministry has supported Freetown City Council throughout this government, as this government is being in power. Whether it is for cleaning, in terms of money that was poured in there, and whether it is for the allocations that go into Freetown City Council, it's been 100% allocation 2019-2020. 2021, allocations are still going in. Yes, we understand, yes, there could be delays, but His Excellency the President has committed. And the one thing that we need to underscore as well is that Freetown is the capital city of Sierra Leone. And no one could deny that fact. So government is, the performance of government is seen through the eyes of the city as well. So we are committed to ensuring that Freetonians receive the services that they deserve. And that is the main reason why we are looking into this, in order to make sure that we have a better platform to make decisions about what needs to happen at Freetown City Council. That's exactly what we're doing.
All right.
All right. So, no, just to add to that, you saying you're not aware of, you know, staff salaries not being paid. Who is meant to give you that information? Is it the CA, the chief
well,
administrator?
The administrator obviously has got responsibility, but he needs to be, he's under the direct supervision of the mayor as well. So clearly, to say these are, remember, what we need, these are subnational entities, and they're somehow semi-autonomous. And just recently, we're talking about interference. Some of these issues, they don't need to even inform us about it. They manage it within their own, entities. Otherwise, it will become what you say in this interference. So they manage the issues. As long as they can deal with it and manage it, there is no need for them to report.
But for the issue of salaries, some of the salaries which are meant to be paid are meant to come from the central government.
Not those ones.
Not the core staff.
Not the core
staff. The core staff, yes.
So,
not those ones. The staff that are recruited by the local councils. They have to pay those staff.
All right. Thank you very much. For Marcus, what would be your final say on the matter?
My final say is that, first, let us take into consideration of the fact that the local government is established by an act of parliament, and that it is a sub-governmental unit. And by all indication, it is supposed to be autonomous, right? And the ministry plays a supervisory role, you understand, it's monitoring and all that. But the ministry should not have total control, you know, over it, because that is where, again, there is a conflict, right? Then again, with regards to the property rate that I raised, we should take into consideration the fact that it was not only the city council that raised revenue, you understand. We should also look at the central government. You agree with me that there was an increase in electricity, which is very paramount, and even water. These are basic social amenities for which government should not have raised, right, revenue on those areas. But what happened? Government increased, taxation on them. So if the government increased taxation on them, then government at the same time decided to actually stop, the local council. Say, for example, if that issue was controlled properly, handled properly, the city council could not have been in a standstill, despite the fact that government has been supporting it. For example, at the height of it all, we saw press release that came from the minister, blocking it, stopping it, you understand? And that issue should have been handled properly. But stopping it, especially when they have to raise their own funds, this is a clear example that the government only paid core staff, and that the council itself paid the large number of staff that it has. So as a result of that, there was this need to actually raise revenue, and there are various ways they raise the revenue. So property tax could be a major means by which they could raise revenue. The issue should have been, handled in a proper way, right? But to me, as far as I'm concerned, and we even raised it at the time when our press release came out, then the issue of this political thing, understand? Let us have one mind. Let us take Sierra Leone as one country. We are one people for one future. Otherwise, the state will retrogress and it will be in a standstill, deadlock, rather than its progress. And that is really a serious problem for this particular country. We should work together as one people.
I just want to take the minister on that, on the press statement saying the property rates would not be implemented and they're putting a hold on it. Prior to you putting out that statement, was there any formal information sent to the mayor, to the mayor's office?
Well, obviously, we needed to put it on hold at that point, and clearly there was conversations, and conversations continued right through. The mayor was part of actually developing the guidelines as well, and also most mayors and CAs as well were part of the process. We're talking about processes. You can't subvert processes and go on and do things that are not within the that go beyond what you're supposed to do. When that happens, there are no two ways. The initial thing you have to do is to put a hold on it, and we're not saying no, you can't do it. Put a hold on it until let's look at it again. If we're having several complaints coming from all over Freetown, from all shades of people from Freetown, actually complaining about the escalating cost of property tax as to where it's moved from, we believe that was the right action to take at that point. But we did not only do that. We gave the mayor and Freetown City Council money to cushion whilst they were not raising the property tax at that time.
Just to move you away from this issue a little bit before we let you go, there is a Western area minister. How does that role affect your role as the local government minister at all?
No, it doesn't. You see, the new decentralization policy describes various entities that should be part of the governance structure. You've got regions, you've got local councils, you've got chiefdoms, and you've also got villages. All around the country, we've got regional ministers, and Western region should not be a different place altogether. They're not.
So, in other words, her office falls under yours?
Well, obviously, we work together. It is not about falling under whom. It is working together. It's about partnership. And that's what I've been saying right through here. Nobody should be territorial. You have to work together because it's about adding value to the process and making sure that the country develops.
But either way,
we believe
there has to be a hierarchy.
We believe
who reports to whom.
It's a completely different role because clearly the role is not about devolve. There are so many other things that happen in Freetown which are not under the city council or various other municipalities. So the role there of the minister is very strategic, and we believe it enhances governance in the whole of Western area.
And just in a few seconds, there are rumors now that Paramount Chiefs are going to have their own official vehicles and that the government has procured Land Cruisers for them as well. Can you confirm that?
That process is underway, and definitely all paramount chiefs will be getting their own official vehicles, chiefdom vehicles for 190 paramount chiefs. The process is underway, and when that is completed, we'll come back to you.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us, and thank you very much to Marcus as well for being a part of the program. It's now 9 o'clock in our studios. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone. We're taking a quick summary of the news, and we'll be back.
Health Ministry disburses checks of 15 million loans to households occupying the government property at Lumley.
We're trying to construct two major hospitals in the Lumley area. One is a general hospital that's about 100 beds, and a pediatric center of excellence that's about 150 beds. So combined, it will have about 250 beds in the Lumley community. We have government land that's out there, and over the years, some people have occupied some of the government land. And so we have spent the past couple of months now negotiating, thanks to Honorable Tawa Conte and his team and the ministry team. We've spoken to every household member. What we thought fit was to look at a humanitarian package for each of these families that will allow them to move on as we follow on with the construction. So 30 families were identified in the community, and for each of those families we have a package of about 15 million leones, and this is based on calculations of what it will cost to pay a monthly rent for a year.
I know what it means for ambulance to take people across to PCMH. Most of the time they die on the way. So I'm not selfish that I'm being evacuated, but for the development of this nation and the well-being of generations to come, I'm happy about it. I appreciate whatever little government gave to me.
I don't receive the check, but really I'm not happy. I'm not happy really. I don't used to the place. From now, the money for 1 year they give you, but when you move, for go another community, for start life, you know, easy.
They belong with me to tell me, see, they can broke this place at any time. So that everybody find place. But with this point say, we're not getting active for now, this not in this season. So but thank God they listen to me, they will give me this.
I feel proud and I'm glad because the development for every Sierra Leonean. As we all know, freedom is difficult to forget. And not easy to forget place. Even if you get the money in hand, but let you get place and not easy.
Residents of Tabakula Wharf at Aberdeen complain of lack of basic amenities.
For now, we get platform them back.
Now no get toilets. Because they no get water. We go to room. We want them to find toilet and find room. We be safe. The fisherman go carry them to block the find store. We be say they go keep them machine. We no problem. No go happen. Put room now. So we make store. We make for me the community unite. For me we able get to we get for keep for the day. But if we can also not get toilet, not get bathroom, people in the come far away for can buy fish now. But they restrain out them for wet, out them for do everything, but they're not able. So we beg, we need for help. We need for help and we need help because the big one and they come, the one wet, they know they get nothing. Look, big people they don't.
You have not get toilets. Number two, we have restrain. We have not get cold room. And we will not get cold room, so the fish we know they done. But we come and we go ice them. We not get safe for fish.
Right, welcome back. we're back with Wakeup Sierra Leone. That was a summary of top stories from the news. And as we said earlier on, the leader and chairman of the Alliance Democratic Party, Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, has been granted bail. He and his co-accused Marian Aruni were granted bail yesterday by Honorable Justice Samuel Taylor at the Sexual Model Court in Freetown. Now, Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari was brought before the court for sexual penetration of a 15-year-old in Konor district on the 14th of February 2020. Let's follow the story with our court reporter, Sheikh Mohammed Silla.
In 2020 July, Mohamed Kamarimba was accused of sexually penetrating a 15-year-old girl in Konor district. However, he has now been granted bail by the Honorable Justice Samuel O. Taylor at the Sexual Model Court in Freetown. Speaking in court, the first accused lawyer, Emmanuel Safa Abdullahi, said due to their witnesses who are coming from up-country, they cannot proceed with the said matter, and as he asked for an adjournment, that notwithstanding they want to renew their application for bail. He said that the health of the first accused, Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, is not favorable, and that sometimes in the 21st September 2020, he made an application with regards to his health. Safa E. Esquires asked the court to grant the accused bail for him to take care of himself and at the same time make himself available before the court whenever he is needed. He said that he is making his application for bail pursuant to Section 79 1, 2, and 3 of the Criminal Procedure Act of 1965. He said he is asking the court to consider the health of the accused as he is behind bar. He also said that the second accused is a mother of 2 young children for which they haven't seen their mother for too long now. He also asked the bench to grant them bail, and she has no flight risk, and he therefore canvassed the bench to consider his application for bail for the first and second accused person. Addressing the court, the state prosecutor, Umu Sumare, said that at this stage she have heard the bail application by the defense team that was made on behalf of both accused persons, and the prosecution at this stage is not opposing to bail. Be that it may, I want the Lordship to take judicial notice for the fact that even with the accused incarcerated could not proceed as fast as it could. The prosecution wishes to see the conclusion of the matter. Given his ruling, the judge, Samuel O. Taylor, said bail is granted for the first accused person, Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, for 100 million leones, 2 shorties, for which one of them should be a resident of Freetown and should be a house owner, and they should provide identification to the master and registrar, and the first accused should report 3 times a week to the master and registrar and shall tender all traveling documents to the master and registrar. The second accused was also granted bail with 100 million leones, 2 shorties, and the shorties shall bring an identification card to the master and registrar, and she shall report twice a week, and she also needs to give all traveling documents to the master and registrar. The matter was adjourned for Tuesday, the 14th September 2021. Sheikh Mohammed Silla, AYV News, Freetown.
All right, many thanks to Sheikh Silla for that report. The bail of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari and his co-accused have come, following requests from social or civil society activists and human rights campaigners about his, health and the fact that he has been behind bars for over a year.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and online now we have his lead defense counsel, lawyer Emmanuel Safa Abdullahi. Emmanuel, good morning and welcome to Wakeup Sierra Leone.
Yeah, good morning, David.
All right, Emmanuel, we've had you when you've in previous days or weeks when you've submitted application for Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari to be granted bail, and those moments or those applications were not granted by the court. But now he has been granted bail, and with some conditions. First off, tell us about the health condition of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari and whether or not he has met the conditions given by the court.
Well, Mohamed has not been well for a long time. I mean, this is not news. it has been reported, because this is something that we raised in September 2020, and the High Court granted an order for the Director of Medical Services to go to prisons and examine him. It was a matter of trying to get the medical people to testify before the court, which took so long. But unfortunately, we only got the orders a couple of days ago. Mohammed will be able to meet the bail conditions. Yesterday, the bail was granted almost at about 3 o'clock. So it was quite impossible to do the processing. This morning, his families and friends are there trying to ensure that he meets the bail condition. Then he will go home. But as you know, he has been sick for a long time.
As you talk about his health condition, that was challenged by the judiciary's spokesperson, El Kassano, saying that the documents that were put forward to the court, they were not as credible as they were, because they were not complete documents, and so the court had to seek a redo of the entire examination of his health condition. So what did this mean now, as
well,
for you, the legal team, defending Mohammed Kamarimba?
That wasn't true. It has never been true. No documents were presented and rejected. We have to set the record straight. Like I said, I don't want to do a trial on media. We applied for bail. The prison doctors provided a medical report after examining Mohammed that he was sick, that there was a sign of prostate cancer. That document was not tendered in court because the court said we need to bring the prison authorities to tender the document, which we did. And then the court ordered Mohammed to be moved from prisons to an established hospital where he was for a couple of months and then taken back to prison. So this is the trend. You know, there has been nothing different from what I have said. Mohammed has been sick. We did not diagnose him. We did not take him to the hospital. The prison authorities themselves found that he was practically sick, and they did a report. And after that, he was taken to a hospital, and the hospital treated him for a while and taken back to prison. We have insisted that there is no sufficient medical facilities in prison to treat him for the sickness which he's complaining of, and that's what it is. We're excited that he eventually got bail yesterday, and we hope that he will be able to seek the medical treatment that is required of him, and will continue to try.
Emmanuel, can I quickly ask you this question regarding his health condition? What if in a situation, we live in a society where almost, those who are well-to-do can afford it when it comes to their health situations, they would not want them to be, themselves to be treated here. And it appeared from the conditions given that Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari poses a flight risk. Asking him to report and sign a register at the Master and Registrar's office 3 days a week. What if in a situation his health deteriorates to a point that he should be traveled out, he should be taken out of Sierra Leone for treatment? Is that something you're considering applying for?
Well, that's a whole different situation. We haven't gotten to that. When we get to that, then the court will have to consider that. We'll make the necessary application to the court. As of now, he's out. He will be out today, hopefully, when the processes are completed. And then he will be taken to the hospital, and then we'll continue the trial. If we got to a situation where he's unable to get sufficient medical treatment, then we'll have to decide a new device in which the court will consider. It has to be on a case-by-case basis.
All right. Just as a way to round up before we let you go, what would you like to say regarding this entire process? You've been pushing for bail for a couple of months. Since he was incarcerated or detained at the Pademba Road prisons or correctional center, and it's been a long journey up to this point, over a year in detention for Kamarimba Mansari. So do you still trust the judiciary in terms of handling this matter?
The judiciary is the avenue where this matter has to be I am a member of the judiciary. I'm a court officer as a lawyer. We believe that the judiciary will provide the platform, where our clients will get fair trial. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do an assessment of a trial that is ongoing. I don't want to do an assessment of the judiciary when I am basically participating in a trial. That's not how it should be as a lawyer. And I have always avoided even having the media communication on media talk on this case. I only do on exceptional circumstances. But as we are before a court established by the Constitution, and that Constitution says the court will deliver fair and equitable justice to everyone, and we believe that's what we're seeking in this matter.
All right, thank you very much for speaking to us there. Wishing you a lovely day.
Thank you.
All right, that was Emmanuel Safa Abdullahi, the lead for the legal defense team of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, the 2018 presidential candidate, who is currently standing trial on sexual offenses, charges there in the sexual model court. And
we must make it clear that it's Kamarimba Mansari and his co-accused who have been granted bail. The lady in question was also detained there, Marion Aruni, but they have both been granted bail. The bail conditions include 100 million leones, two shorties who must deliver their traveling documents, and one must possess house ownership documents, and they all must report to the master and registrar of the High Court 3 days a week. 3 days a week.
I mean, so that's it there. We're now trying to get the director of communications of the judiciary, Elkas Sano, to tell us. Elkas Sano had advanced argument that the medical reports presented by the legal team of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari when applying for bail was not conclusive, and so the court had to order order for 2 experts to go and redo, re-examine Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari and assess his health condition. But I think Elkas Sano is there with us now. Elkas, good morning and welcome to Wakeup, Sierra Leone.
Good morning.
Yeah, we've had you on this particular show previously, and you mentioned that the medical report presented, which was signed by the chief medical officer of at the Ministry of Health, was not conclusive, but the court ordered that a re-examination should be done by 2 experts, and I'm sure that has been done now, and Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari has been granted bail owing to the fact that his health condition is deteriorating. What does that speak to in terms of the applications that were being made by the legal team of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari?
Yes, having fulfilled the bail having fulfilled the requirement for the granting of bail, the honorable judge, one of the appeal court judges who sits or preside over cases at the sexual offences model court, yesterday granted bail to Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari and the co-accused, Marion Aruni. Mark you, like I stated previously, I said bail falls within the remit of the judge who presides over that particular case, as provided for in this Criminal Procedure Act, Section 79(1), 2, and 3. Now, yesterday we saw a situation wherein, after the renewal of the bail application by the defense team, the prosecuting team did not object to bail, and they said they are actually not averse to bail. I also used to tell Sierra Leoneans that when you talk about bail, an application is normally being made by the defense team to convince or canvass the court to allow the judge to grant bail to their client. after which the prosecuting team will either object or not object. If the prosecuting team objects and the reasons advanced is convincing to the court, at the end of the day, the court, that is the judge, will decide not to give bail. But as we speak, Kamaremba, Mansare, and the co-accused were granted bail yesterday. But the situation here now is they are still under detention or at the correctional center because the bail...
they have not met the conditions. But quickly, Elkas, because we're running out of time, quickly, in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act that gives, power to the judge to use, his discretion to grant bail or not, there are guidelines, especially with the bail and sentencing regulation. Even without Mohamed Kamaremba's health condition, they've applied for bail. Does it only have to be that when his health condition is deteriorating, that the judge will use his discretion to grant Kamaremba bail?
No, aside from the deteriorating health condition of the accused person, it is the discretion of the judge also to give bail. Mark you, bail, we always say bail is free. But even though it is free, it is tied down to the discretion of the judge. Inter them with the bail regulation, which means it is telling the judge, even though the Criminal Procedure Act says it is your discretion, but it must be tied to the bail regulation, which means there should be a reason for refusing or granting bail. That's so explicit.
Okay.
The reason why that bail regulation was actually developed is to make sure the court is very much magnanimous when it comes to the issue of granting bail.
All right,
also,
Elkas,
yes.
like I mentioned, because of time, we'll be interrupting you there. Just a question, a final question for me. The issue of establishing a sexual model court was to expedite trials and all of that. But we've seen this case has gone for 14 months without a decision. Is this not almost saying, well, there would have been no need for the setting up of a sexual model court to expedite trials of such nature because it's 14 months?
Yes. That's the fundamental reason of establishing the sexual offences model court. One, to ensure fair trial, and secondly, to expeditiously try an accused person or to ensure speedy conclusion of the matter. But even though that's what we actually want to enhance, efficiency and effectiveness, when you talk about proceedings. But also, if the matter from both ends is not the prosecuting team and the defense team that are cause for the delay. You don't blame the court. For instance, within 3 months, the prosecuting team completed their own case. So it was, or it is still left with the defense team now to speedily make sure they are in compliance to the reason of setting up of the sexual offences court, which is to enhance effective and efficient
So are you saying, Elkas, are you saying the defense team, that's Mohamed Kamaremba's part, have on their own part failed to deliver the things that could that could fast track the process of the trial?
Exactly. To a very large extent, they have contributed to the delay. Even yesterday, they asked for adjournment. Yeah, let me also state this to Sierra Leoneans. There was even a time for 1 month, Kamarimba was not attending court. And even the defense team, we are not coming to court 1 month. Not until when the court, because the court wants to enhance speedy trial proceedings of the matter, they order them to appear before the court. This is just to ensure we live up to the expectations or the reason why the Sexual Offences Model Court was established.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for speaking to us there, Elkas.
Thank you very much. Grateful talking to you.
Now, we have to move on with the show.
Right, exactly. September 8th is declared International Literacy Day across the world, and it was declared at the 14th session of UNESCO's General Conference on 26th October 1966. Now, since the following year, 1967, literacy celebrations have taken place annually around the world to remind the public of the importance of literacy as a matter of dignity and human rights, and to advance the literacy agenda towards a more literate and sustainable society.
Right, Literacy Day encourages each person around the world to read, understand and enjoy the rights enshrined in this fabulous document. Now, according to statistics, up to 65% of Sierra Leone's population is illiterate, and women suffer under the illiteracy crisis to a greater extent than men. Without basic literacy, especially among women, Sierra Leone remains patriarchal, discriminatory, abusive and unfair.
Right, so this morning to discuss the day, we have Brima Michael Ture, the Public Relations Officer, Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, and Dr. Walon Jallo, an author and senior lecturer in the Department of Language Studies at FBC, Fairway College, University of Sierra Leone.
Right.
And if we could just admit it to ourselves that we have not done justice to the panel this morning by not having a woman here.
We tried to, Antonia. We tried. We
Right.
made efforts.
We would tell the public we did make an effort to get someone here to represent, to give us gender parity on the panel, but unfortunately, they were out of town and we couldn't get them here. But don't worry, women, I'll be speaking for you in solidarity. But good morning to you, Brima Michael Ture and Dr. Jallo.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Right. So talking about literacy here and what this day means to the world, Michael Ture, you know, we look at the data that has been presented when it comes to literacy in Sierra Leone, and we look at the current agenda for education across the country. One would definitely say that this is in line with trying to promote literacy, but also when we look at the resources available to meet the needs of not only children, but say adults who might have passed the stages of, you know, lower level education to read and write. Are we making strides in that area of adult literacy?
Well, yes. Over the last few years, we have been making attempts to address the problem of illiteracy in this country. Resources could be one great factor, mitigating factor, but it goes beyond just resources. It also has to do with the general psychic of the people as well, in a particular society or locality. It goes with the political will also, in terms of the willingness by any political administration to actually pay attention to the fact that we need to do a whole lot around illiteracy, because education, as we know, is key and paramount in the development of any nation. And also, we have to understand that there has always been a difference between being literate and being educated. See?
Absolutely.
Yes, so you could be educated in a particular thing, but not literate in it.
Right.
Meaning you have knowledge of it, but you cannot even read and write about it. That's also a difference there. But over the years, recognizing the fact that we as a Ministry of Education, for example, need to do more, we had established informal learning centers. So not only for mainstream education, we have our schools for that, But for those who did not have the opportunity to go to school, we had been running informal learning centers. Now we have up to 202 of them. They are school-based informal learning centers, meaning these are operating in schools that are already existing in the country. And several years before now, we only had like 48, but now we have at least 202 learning centers. And we also have community learning centers. They may not have been capacitated enough, but we have them, in addition to the 202 school-based learning centers. And so that, and also the fact that quite recently we have also looked at our basic education curriculum, and we have revamped that after many years of neglect, I would say. And so all of that put together would suggest that we are making effort to address the problem of illiteracy in this country, and to capacitate our population enough for them to be able to access literacy material.
You talk about these learning centers you've created, but are there any special programs when it comes to adult literacy that a young person, not necessarily under the age of 18, but someone who is above that age but is currently unlettered, unable to read or write, can be enrolled in, so that they can also benefit from these schemes?
So that is exactly the idea. I mean, they are being trained on basic skills, they're being trained on literacy and numeracy, so that they can catch up, at least be able to read and understand things, be able to navigate around things in terms of their individual living skills, in terms of their daily activities of living. So all of that is what we're targeting. Because for someone who has not been in school for several years, or who has never even been to school, for example, it's usually not very easy to get them to the point where you would say, well, now they can read and write perfectly well. So it's a hassle, but we're taking the challenge, and we're seeing progress, because some of them are transitioning from that to mainstream schooling, which is very encouraging. And so that is our encouragement as to what we're doing.
All right. Dr. Wala, let's get you. I mean, as an author, for example, I would want you to just share with us your experience, especially if there's a percentage of people reading, the reading culture in Sierra Leone, because many people have advanced argument that it's very poor. But you are a writer, so share your experience with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This is quite an exciting moment for all of us, really. It's a very basic feat which most of our colleagues cannot accomplish, and it is sad. It is not being that sophisticated. It is just your ability to read and understand, comprehend, and then you relate. So that is why I think in 1966 this agenda was set, so that we can remind ourselves about the importance of literacy, and then its importance and the concerns if it is not there. So for me as a writer, I have written 6 books. I'm working on others, and I'm also a lecturer. It's a challenge, but not an insurmountable one. Putting your fingers on the exact number of people who are able to read and cannot read, that one will wait for the statistics really across the ages, the age divide.
Yeah.
But for us at Furabe College, the numbers are increasing, the students' enrollments. So maybe there could be a margin of error if you decide to take that one as a variable. But honestly, I remember when I enrolled in 1992 at Furabe, the entire population can be squeezed into like this Trasaking hall. Yeah, but now you just can't do that. It is in their thousands, about 14 to 15,000 students at Furabe College. That's really huge. Basically, I'm just giving you indicators.
Yeah.
Most of us are using WhatsApp. Not all of us can write, but most people are using the audio.
Right.
They can audio and share. And maybe they are identifying icons. And again, the beauty about this thing is that it hasn't stressed any particular language. Yeah, it is just ability to read and write. Maybe it's possible I can write Creole, even though most others cannot read and write Creole. But then they are educated in English. When I was coming up, I saw Nain Salon Sabi, IHN, which for us should have been IN, no H. So it is like anglicizing the Creole. So that's why I say it's an exciting moment. Some, for my folks, for instance, they can read and understand appreciable Arabic. Yeah, and some French, but not English. So it's exciting because everyone is in this game. And the challenge, I think, facing our policymakers and other development actors is to capture the very active seniors, the adults who've passed that stage, getting them to get to those classrooms and go through the 7 stages for which you'll be able to read Ola and the ball, you know, the dancing plates and spoon. That is the difficulty that they would have. And I think as the centers are they are increasing, I think it's encouraging. But again, you know, we're missing the young ones as well, because some of them are missing out, especially for parents who are challenged. But again, we see what is happening. The numbers are just increasing. And again, we're also struggling with what you would call, you know, the timing, and of course, this COVID, you know, the pandemics, Ebola, and that is why, in fact, I think even the international agenda has been about bridging the divide. Yeah, this technology divide. Yeah, not just trying to recover what we've lost, but also to bridge a technology divide so that we can drive and promote literacy. I think I'll just stop so far for now.
Getting the older folks back to whatever form of learning that will be devised for them to be literate. I mean, in terms of their makeup mentally, is it something that is super tough or difficult for them to understand? Because just so I mean, we're able to get them to be able to read and write. I've listened to stories where people who are above the age, I mean, the learning age we consider for younger folks, that, I mean, they spend a year or two. Some of them can actually comprehend easily and are able to understand, read and write what, I mean, they're being taught. So perhaps it goes back to what strategy are we using in the sector we are in, the education, to be able to target and train these guys, I mean, to be able to just get them into the figures of those who will refer to as literate people.
I think the adult education experts, in fact, at Frabe College, we are engineering with the University of Sierra Leone to have the Faculty of Education. It's ongoing. And I think they are doing work along that direction.
Right.
They have a system. It's like scientifically done. They have programs, like 7 weeks. Honestly, they will tell you, you come to class for 7 weeks, you know, these 7 stages, you will be successful. I have uncles who've never been to an English language class. Yeah, and they succeeded in reading Ola and the Ball and the Geneva and the Road. Yeah, and I was really impressed. It used to be run by Mr. Wilson and the others, and Bishop Johnson. Yes. Maybe now with the advent of technology, with the other learning aids, it will be faster. But again, it's, you know, you can really imagine if I were to look at that signboard and cannot read Samuel Wise Bangura, you would imagine the type of darkness I will be in.
So this is related to just what I want to ask regarding the impact of literacy rates in a nation like Sierra Leone, or even across the world. Yes, as Brima Michael Toure has stated, there's a difference between literacy and education. So which of them has more devastating impacts if low within a nation?
That's a tough question.
Is there a direct impact for a nation having high illiteracy rates compared to that one having maybe a high education rate, but maybe literacy is low? Because what I'm looking at is perhaps civic education, which does not necessarily mean you have to be lettered to understand what the colors of the flag mean, for instance, to understand what the national anthem means. You can sing the national anthem, but not necessarily read the national anthem.
Yeah.
So this is the angle I'm looking at.
And that is, it's a continuum, and the mix, it is not an easy mix really. Literacy and education. You know, when you are educated and the other individual cannot read and write, you have two people at the different end of the spectrum. Now, the definition of prosperity will be, for me, is to merge the two. Those who are really educated and those who at least can read and write. And when they function together in a society, you would have a fine mix. For us here, you have people who are, they are adults and they cannot read and write. And you have people who've been to school and in fact, they just don't want to read and write. Because I belong to so many WhatsApp groups. I like to write. And they would always tell me to audio. And these are educated people who've been up to senior secondary school, tertiary institutions. So the task will be for us to have a functioning society wherein you have opportunity of platforms for people to be literate. And of course, those who are educated to deepen the functionality of the education they would have acquired. Because we have people who are really educated but not functional because maybe the way they think. They refuse to think outside of the box, and that's a challenge. And you have others who are not in the two. Well, they are not functional, yes, educated, they're not educated, and they are not literate. But honestly, it's like they are, well, in English, but they are succeeding in life. Yes, you have them in our society. You just have to be at PZ and try to ascertain what is it that I'm talking about. People who are really, they are smart. Smart, but they don't have degrees and diplomas. And again, honestly, they cannot read and write, but they can identify colors and they can do things, and they are succeeding. They're taking care of their kids, they've built houses, they're traveling to and from Sierra Leone. So we have to look at these fine lines and see how we can get them to blend.
I think Brema wants to have a bite on because you also have people who are actually motivated. They may want to be literate, to read and write, and they have all this motivation, but unfortunately, external factors may not allow them to actually pursue that line of action in terms of what they need to do in order to get to that point of being literate. In developed countries where people can access social services for free, for example, they can make that time to go and capacitate themselves, knowing that at the end of the week or every 2 weeks or the month, they would get resources from the state. Here, that's not the case. Well, in most African countries, not just here, that's not the case. But I know of situations where people don't work at all. They access government money every month or every week, and they have the opportunity to go and do something else and capacitate themselves. Here we don't have that, and so that's also a challenge. You will see people who are really very smart, like Doctor said, and you would see that they really want to do something beyond just going to Abacha Street and sell or hang out in some street corner to sell basic stuff, but they will tell you, I have to survive. So there is now the challenge between survival and capacitating yourself, and that creates a problem in between. So that's also a very serious challenge when you look
Just
at
before we take few messages, the question Antonia asked, then let's look at how our education system is structured, especially Sierra Leone. The structure, I perceive it to be one that, where we're trained to be literate, but not educated. I mean, if you go back to now, you're trying to give a clear distinction between literacy and education. So how then do we ensure that the current system we have, we're able to ensure that we accomplish both literacy and education?
So usually when I talk about education in this country, when I have discussions with people, and I say, okay, let us even just leave out everything that happened during the colonial period. Let's leave that. Let's look at when we actually took over. I said, if you look at what has happened over the years, you would come to realize that we have actually lacked what you call quality education as far back as 35, 40 years ago, honestly. 35, 40 years ago. And that is where the problem is. You see, when people would think that I can fix the education problems in 5 years, and forgetting the fact that that quality had been lost several years ago, then it creates a problem because they begin to now assess you on the basis of those years that you have actually specified. I'll fix the problem in 5 years or in 10 years. It's not realistic. It's not. So what we need to do is to accept the fact that we had lost it several years ago. And we have to come to terms with that. And probably separate the politics from the reality, what needs to be done and what needs to happen. If we begin to think along that line, hopefully, we will be able to discover solutions to our education problems in this country. But when we begin to look at it from a particular lens, then we're missing it completely. So now you look at what's happening. We don't have all the resources that we need to do all of the things that we want to do in the education system. That is a fact, you know, especially in a donor-driven economy such as the one we have. And so we make do with what we have available to us. And so all of these learning centers we're trying to establish is to just provide an opportunity for people to be able to access them, not to say that we're going to solve everybody's problem. But every step that you take along that line would mean and add some value to the education system in this country. And I think that is what the focus should be, and that's what people should look at when you're trying to assess what either individuals or entities have done to actually improve the quality of education in this country.
All right. Dr. Jallo, let's have a bite on that. Let's please have a bite on that. How do we achieve the two, literacy and education, at a goal?
It will be a simultaneous process of interventions, of several interventions, really. You have to ensure that those who are so determined are on the track, can get educated and deepen their experience. And those who have missed out can have the opportunity to also tag along. So it is not a one-way, it is a multifaceted way of doing it. And as Mr. Toure has said, it's a long term and incremental, very, very slow. It took us so many years to get us where we are today. Take, for instance, AYV now on DSTV. It never happened just like that. For those who've missed out, I think they should make themselves available at the centers. And from there, then they can talk about incentives and then getting them to stay on the programs. But if they are not going to BJ or to the other school centers that are available, then you would miss them. And remember, it is adult. They don't have to stay there for too long. And for those who are going through the formal education system like universities, tertiary, they should have a platform wherein they could be able to create their own jobs. Yes, an ability to apply the knowledge they've had. Not just a question of what I would normally call this ROAEC, where you remember, you understand, you apply. But no, it's to create this creation, you know, job creation. Are you selling plum or whatever, peanuts? You can have a degree and open a salon to do hair. That's beautiful. Why do we enjoy most of our brothers in Nigeria and the US? Because these are educated people running barber salons and running coffee shops, and they can speak and articulate well, and they can, you know, add value to whatever discussion you have. But for us here, we have this mentality of relegating certain, you know, professions to a particular group of people, and for the others. So that's a challenge. And no matter how much money you invest in it, it depends on individuals who are ready to capitalize on the opportunities as they make themselves here.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us on this issue. And
unfortunately, we do not have a book that we should have given you guys to read for us.
Read, right. But Happy Literacy Day. It's a very nice discussion we've had. And we do hope people who are watching or listening have been inspired by what we've said here. Thank you so much for being a part of the program.
You're welcome.
Right, and now we move to sports. After an abrupt break due to the COVID-19 containment measures, the Sierra Leone Premier League commences this weekend. So let's join our sports reporter for more on that.
Thank you so much. Now, mighty Blackpool Football Club has appointed one-time SLFA presidential aspirant Rodney Michael as the team's new chairman. According to Rodney, his short-term plans will focus on overcoming the club's financial challenges and provide comfortable atmosphere for the technical team and the players. He made the statement through an interview with Michael John Fofana.
With barely 4 days to the resumption of the Sierra Leone Premier League, one of Sierra Leone's oldest football club, Mighty Blackpool, has today appointed one-time Sierra Leone Football Association presidential aspirant Rodney Michael as the team's new chairman. While speaking to AYV Sports, Rodney expressed his gratitude for the appointment and further spoke on his short-term plans.
The news is true. We've been on discussions for a while now, and it's confirmed. I consented yesterday, and the press release is out. The stand of the club is going through some challenges. We have to overcome those challenges. We have to make sure that all technical team and players are fully paid and that their contracts are revised with the intent of improving them, and to ensure that all salaries of technical team and players are paid before the end of every month. In addition to that, we have to provide the kind of atmosphere for the technical team and players to be comfortable at all times so that they will be able to put in their best effort without having to worry about any of the challenges. And then the medium term is to restructure, get the relevant committees in place like the technical committee, the media and marketing team, getting in place the kind of public relations outfit. And Blackpool has always been the biggest club in Sierra Leone. It's been a family club. It has a heritage, it has a tradition. We have to restore that heritage and tradition.
He also furthered that he's determined to include fans in the activities of the club.
We're going to restore the family values of Blackpool. We're going to leave all this animosity, division, rivalry within the club. We're going to be united. We're going to come in as one force. The fans are going to be actively involved in the running of the club. They're going to have a strong representation in the executive. They're going to have a big say in the elders, and they're going to be involved in the technical aspect of the club, in the technical committee. And we're going to include fans in the areas like marketing, like PR. The club belongs to the elders and the fans, not the executive. The executive is doing a service. The club belongs to the elders and the fans. So we're just going to serve them. And being the servants, we're not going to be the bosses. We're not going to dictate. We're going to work with them. We're going to do what they want, and we're going to try to help them get to Blackpool where they want Blackpool to go.
In other news, Old Edwardians Football Club has signed Abdullahi Kalogaba as their new head coach. Michael John Fofana, AYV Sports in Freetown.
Sierra Leone Cricket Association has departed with a 21-man delegation comprises of 7 officials and 14 cricketers for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup qualifiers in Botswana this month. The team will play their first match against Nigeria on the 11th of September. Let's take a look. The ICC Africa Women's T20 World Cup qualifiers is scheduled to commence on the 9th of September until the 20th in Botswana this year. The Sierra Leone Cricket Association has departed with 21-man delegation for the tournaments. The female patrol will be engaging on 2 days intensive training for their first match against Nigeria on the 10th of September this year. Sierra Leone female side has an edge over Nigeria, and the match will be a stiff encounter between both sides. Following that, the team will play against Cameroon on Tuesday the 11th of September, and their next remaining match will be against Namibia and Uganda. If Sierra Leone wins 3 matches, they will qualify straight to the semi-final of the tournament. Team captain Linda Bull assured Sierra Leoneans that they are sure of bringing home laurels this time. Ransford McLean, AYV Sports Freetown. That's all I have for sports, and back to you.
All right, many thanks to you, Ransford, for our sports stories. Samuel, I don't know what local football fan are you? What club do you support? Are you excited about the Premier League?
I am super excited, not just because I have a local club in the Sierra Leone Premier League, but also because I think it serves as a breeding ground, especially when we're talking about going to Yaoundé. And exactly. We need to keep our guys very active. We need to see them playing so that we can spot the talent that should represent Leone Stars.
Yes, that's a very good point.
It's a very, because without the game, how can we assess the readiness of our players mentally, physically. I mean, I played a match on Saturday, and by the way, I scored a goal. I played I played as an attacker. I mean, we had
you're always looking for a way for me to respect you more. Don't worry, you have my full respect. You have my full respect. You know, so congratulations on the goal.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for staying with us throughout the 2 hours, but everything must come to an end, and this is where we'll draw the curtains in today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. Before we leave, a quick reminder of a quote. The quote says, "To completely abolish discrimination, we must never undermine people's emotions when facing adversity. We should always approach each other with a human face and a pinch of compassion, a mixture of love, understanding, respect, and fairness." The quote comes from Abdul Blah, a Sierra Leonean humanitarian based in the United Kingdom.
All right, we say many thanks to our sponsor, Rotel Commercial Bank, for their support for the show. Continue to stay with AYV throughout the day as we have other exciting programs coming up. We'll meet again on Wake Up Sierra Leone for more interesting topics. We've been your presenters. My name is Samuel Weiss-Bangula.
And my name is Antonia Howard. Have a great day.